Hi everyone, welcome to another exciting edition of Words, Images, and Worlds. Delighted on this episode to be talking with author Jacqueline Davies. May I call you Jacqueline? Is that
You
okay?
may call me Jackie. Feel free to call me
Okay, all
Jackie.
right,
That's
all
much
right,
easier. It's much
all
less
right.
of a mouthful.
That totally works. That works. Is that a real background? Are you in just such a lovely space?
This is a real background. I have a studio because I do so many school visits, and
Oh,
half of them are virtual, half of them are in person. So I have a dedicated studio where I can just drop in, plug in right away, start talking to kids in Montana, start talking to kids in Virginia, later in the afternoon, talking to kids in Texas. So yes, it is a dedicated, it's real. It's real.
love it, love it. Well, that's a great note to already have out the gate that author visits are a wonderful thing, and virtual visits can be a really nice way to connect.
Virtual visits are a terrific option. They really are. And who
Hmm.
could have? I mean, I know people were Skyping before the pandemic. I didn't because the technology, in my opinion, was so faulty that it just frustrated me. And so I didn't do Skype visits. When the pandemic came around, we all switched to Zoom. We all started getting our act together, buying tech stuff, and it's a great option. I will say it's never quite as good as an in-person visit. There is something about people being in the same room, breathing the same air,
Hmm. Hmm.
feeling the same temperature, that just there's something about being in person that is really, really uh, special. So virtual
Yeah,
visits, thumbs up when you can't get out to the kids in Montana. It's great, but I am always happy to travel and see kids in situ.
yeah, yeah. Wonderful use of in situ as well. Um, so speaking about this idea of writing for young people, what makes this authoring that you do for young people this special and unique space that you'd like to occupy?
Oh, oof, writing for kids. What a privilege it is. You know, I'm guessing you're a reader. I'm a reader.
I am a reader.
I think there are few of us who would say or could say that there's maybe any book we've read as an adult that has meant as much to us as some of the books from our childhood.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
particularly thinking about the way books, become so beloved when we're kids, but also are so they're foundational. They kind of form you. They introduce for the first time ideas you've never thought of, or situations, or you meet characters you've never met characters like that. Everything's new. Everything's new, and young readers are open and they're joyous in their reading. And so it's a rare opportunity to kind of, meet someone at this space where they are so ready to share in what you want to share with them.
Hmm.
And I mean, I remember books from decades ago that I read when I was young. There are books I read 2 weeks ago. I couldn't tell you a whole lot about them. So, I mean, it's just this really particular space where you have the opportunity to really, I don't want to say make a difference because that sounds very, I don't know, kind of evangelical in a certain way that I'm not meaning it to be, but just you can really have an effect. And isn't
Hmm.
that a wonderful thing when you're an artist to really feel like you've had an effect?
True, true. Yeah. I know that we're talking about the upcoming adaptation of the Lemonade War, but curious about your original inspiration for this book and anything that you'd like to tell us about how the prose version came to be. The
Sure.
OG, the
The
OG, as my
OG,
students would
yes,
say. Yeah.
yes. Let's go back in time, nostalgic. Yeah, so the original book was written when my kids were still young. They're now grown up and adults. And it came about because my two sons got into a fight about a lemonade stand. They started arguing about a lemonade stand, and the arguing got louder and louder in that way that with siblings, something that starts out sort of small can suddenly erupt into something very big very quickly because siblings have a lot going on between them. There's a lot of love, there's a lot of conflict, there's a lot of rivalry.
Hmm.
So my two boys started having this argument that, under no ordinary circumstances might not have become much of anything, but it really was turning into a brouhaha. And I could hear them from outside, and I heard my older son. It was about who could be part of the lemonade stand because my younger son had started it with a friend, and then my older son had a friend, and they wanted to join in at the very last minute after all the work had been done. And so I heard my older son say, "Fine, you won't let us be part of your lemonade stand. We're just going to go across the street and start our own lemonade stand, and we're going to take all your business away from you." And when I heard that, I thought, "Oh, no, this is going to turn into a lemonade war." And that's really all it was. It was that light bulb going off over my head of the Lemonade War. I thought, that's a great title. But,
Hmm.
I get ideas for books all the time. Like I'd say every week I get at least two or three totally viable ideas for books, and obviously I can't write them all. So oftentimes the ideas just sort of, fizzle away as they should, as I need them to because I can't write them all. But this is an idea that just stuck and stuck and stuck with me. And I didn't end up writing that story. That's not the story I wrote. It turned into something quite different. But it did start with this basic idea of a conflict between siblings over a lemonade stand. That was sort of all I took from it. And usually parents hate it when their kids get into arguments, but that was the best argument my kids ever got into. Really, it was a winner.
A very productive one.
A very productive one that has just gone on and on and on. It put my kids through college.
Hey, there you go. There you go. Well, we're talking the graphic novel adaptation. So, what's it been like to see this book in this new way?
It's thrilling. Boy, is it thrilling. First of all, I'm new to writing the script for a graphic novel. I'd never done that before. So that whole process was brand new, and that was a roller coaster ride. But then the space beyond that, after you've handed in the script and then seeing what the illustrator comes back with, is just astonishing. Maybe I wouldn't feel that way if I didn't think that the illustrator, Carolyn de la Vega, did such a home run of a job. She
Hmm.
really, really knocked it out of the park. And so it was just like, I've done a lot of picture books. I've written picture books. I don't illustrate them. And you get those first pictures back from an illustrator. And, oftentimes there's that feeling of, maybe it just doesn't feel quite right. Maybe just in the early phases. But when this came back from the very first pages, I just loved it. So it's been exciting. It's been very expanding for me. It was a real challenge for me to write the script. It was really
Hmm.
a new way of writing. And so I love challenges. I like things that are hard when they end up well. So so it was exciting, it was challenging, it was enormously gratifying. And then we've ended up with this book that I am just tingling to get out into the world. I'm so excited about it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I am curious about that process, that adaptation. I imagine that you had to leave some things out or change the presentation of some things. So, what was that like?
Yeah, to be honest, I mean, we kept the story the same. We did not make changes, except like a couple of tiny little tweaks to technology things that, 17 years ago, you got to make some updates. So a few little things, couple of really minor things that got simplified, but probably nothing that you would even notice if you read both versions. The most important thing that I needed to learn when I was writing the script was I wrote the original story. I
Hmm.
know the
Hmm.
story. I know the characters. I know this stuff like I know my own skin. So you'd think it wouldn't be that hard to just take that story and, transfer it to the page. And obviously we're writing in a different format. Up at the top of the script, you write page 9, and then you write panel 1, panel 2, panel 3, panel 4, or however many panels you want. Under each panel, you put a quick little description that only the illustrator uses. Those words never go into the book. And then the only tools you have, the words that you write that are going to end up in the book, are dialogue, thought bubbles, and sound effects. That's it. Maybe tiny bit of narration, tiny, tiny bit of, later that day, that kind of thing. So you've got really different tools for telling the story. But what I found was, because I knew the story so well, because it was my story, I literally was, I'd look at the prose version of it, and then I'd go over there and say, page 9, Evan
Hmm.
walks in the door. Panel 2, Evan sits down. Panel 3, Evan looks over his shoulder. I was doing that kind of transferring. I was just transferring from one like bucketful, scooping up here and dumping out here and scooping up here and dumping out there. And what I quickly realized was that makes for a very dull graphic novel. And so much can be accomplished in a single panel if you have a talented illustrator, as we did.
Mhm.
Time can pass within a single panel. Emotions can change. They can play across the face in a single panel. Um, Multiple dialogue, bubbles can be said. It doesn't just have to be one bubble, one bubble, one bubble. So much, there can be so much dynamism within a single panel that is not this, he did this, and then he did this. See, I was writing in stop action, like, and it really wasn't working. And it was my editor who kind of taught me that. I handed in my first draft. It was very long. I think it was close to 300 pages. And she wrote back and really her comments were limited to, can we combine these? These three panels, can we combine them? How about these two? Can we combine them? And at first I thought, can we? And then I realized, oh, we can. We actually really can. And then I got into the rhythm of it. And I was the one finding, oh, look, we can combine this. We can combine this. We can combine this. Now, in a couple of cases, when we got those first pages, the illustrations back from the illustrator, it was like, oh, we need to pull that apart. We tried to accomplish too much in that panel. It's confusing. You don't know what's going on. And so then we did have to backtrack just in a few places. But overall, keep the movement going forward. And that's what I needed to learn. And that I think is important no matter what type of writing you do. Pacing, keep it moving along.
Mhm, mhm. Interesting to think about kind of the stop motion as you were talking about and translating that way. And what an exercise is the author of the original prose novel as well to get to engage in that.
Yeah, so and in prose, it's lovely because I mean, not that young readers are going to sit still forever. You can't indulge yourself and, write a description for 3 pages, but you do get to kind of pause and breathe a little bit and and just sort of, I don't want to say savor the moment, but just sort of live in that moment for a little bit.
Mhm.
And you can do that a little bit in a graphic novel, but for the most part, you do need to keep it moving along. And it's a delight to see in this final version. I was just looking through it today because I was pulling out a passage to do as a reading when I go on book tour. I was just noticing like, wow, so much happens. You just over 3 pages, so much happens in those 3 pages. So I feel like that worked really well.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I have a copy as well, and it's a beautiful edition, beautiful book.
Thank you.
Glad to get to share it with students and teachers and share this way. Anything that you'd like to say about where people can find information about you, connect with you for author visits, um, or anything that you'd like to say, and anything that you'd like to say about what's next in your creative journey?
Well, I am always excited to connect with people, both readers, parents, teachers, librarians, always happy to be in touch with you. The easiest way to get in touch with me is to go to my website, jacquelinedavies.net. Very easy. I'm very Googleable. You can find me if you put in any misspelling of my name, you'll find my website. And on the very front page, there is a place to sign up for my newsletter. And I would strongly encourage anybody interested in kind of following what's going on to sign up for my newsletter. I also give away free books in my newsletter every month. So if teachers and librarians building up your classroom library, that's something to think about. I'm also on Instagram. I think I can tell you where I am. Jacqueline Davies books underscore on Instagram. I'm on YouTube, Jacqueline Davies 9 on YouTube. Technically, I'm on Blue Sky, but I admit I'm not hanging out there too much. So those are just some of the ways that you can be in touch with me, and I'm always happy to have a back and forth.
Sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Any ambition, any desire to engage in another graphic novel adaptation
Yes,
at any point?
I'm just remembering that you said what's next. I should tell what's next. Uh, so I am currently working on a middle grade prose book. So your usual
Lovely.
sentences, paragraphs, chapters kind of book. I am
Hmm.
working on that now. I'd say it's about 3/4 of the way done. I've really sort of had to put it on hold because with the new book coming out, there's just a lot of promotion to be done. There's a lot of reaching out to people and, like I said, going on a book tour and all that stuff. So I haven't been doing a lot of writing lately, but I'm eager to get back to that one, and I'm most of the way done. But I do have in mind an idea for an original graphic novel that I would love to get to. Now that I feel like I've gone to boot camp, I've kind of
Hmm.
gone through basic training and I kind of know how to do this and I know what to look for. And I know an idea that which ideas are well suited and which ones aren't, and this one is. I thought of the idea and immediately I said, oh, that needs to be a graphic novel. It actually couldn't be a prose novel. So I would love to get to that. And, I'd like to, you know, dust off my newly acquired skills at writing a graphic novel script and put it to work on a entirely new story, which would be kind of thrilling and scary.
Yeah, yeah, that amazing. I love it. And when you acquire another language, I guess like the language of comics, keep using it. I love
It
that.
absolutely, that's exactly what it's like.
Yeah, yeah. Well, big fan of middle grades, novels, graphic novels, any form of storytelling around here, and certainly a delight to talk with you.